I swear, if I get one comment saying, you can't spell ignorant without spelling IGN, I'm gonna lose it. And probably explode.
Marcosatsu.
To the surprise of absolutely no one, IGN said something weird. 5 reasons why Power Rangers is slightly better than Super Sentai. With this headline alone, you just know the tokusatsu community just went up in arms and everybody had an opinion on it, and hey, so do I. So I want to be clear that who wrote this was part of IGN Southeast Asia. I do like how the subheader says, no disrespect to the originals, because you just know someone's gonna read only the headlines, not even the article, and probably get mad at the headline, even though, well, I'll get into that in a second. But they actually do pay respect to Super Sentai. They say that while we admit that Super Sentai is a superior franchise in so many ways, here are five how... I think someone accidentally a word here. Here are 5 reasons how Power Rangers manages to have a leg up on their Japanese counterpart. I say they pay respects to Super Sentai, but then they missed a word there, so whoops. And they also say, granted, the original Japanese shows have a lot more leeway in terms of its plot development, character scope, and scale of action scenes, which means the Power Rangers team has to be very creative in making each season work. And that's completely true. Since Power Rangers has to take its footage from Super Sentai, they actually have to be more creative and work around these scenes rather than try to make too much of their own original footage. Although Cosmic Fury is trying to make their own original footage and suits, but that's a whole other thing. And the less I say about the suits, the better. Reasoning 1. Solid continuity. Do they mean just Mighty Morphin? A lot of the continuity mostly comes from the Zordon era and any recent seasons that Hasbro has been trying to work with. Because the Zordon era, from the original Mighty Morphin all the way to In Space, or you can even count Lost Galaxy if you wanted to, that actually had a solid overarching story. I mean, they each held their own, but they did have an ongoing story that had to do with Zordon and Zed and the other villains, of course. But everything between the Zordon era and the Hasbro era, the Disney era it doesn't really do that, except for crossovers and special occasions. So I guess I get what they mean by solid continuity, but it's just weird to point that out when that's more of a recent thing and one of the first things, while the 20-year gap in between all that has the continuity of just oh, Rangers exist. That's about it. that there's your continuity, I guess. And if you do want to compare to Super Sentai, Sentai does have its own continuity. They do bring up past seasons. And if you don't want to count the anniversary seasons like Gokaiger and Zenkaiger, which, by the way, actually do have really good callbacks, really good continuity, then Cure Major had a callback to the Green Ranger being part of the Geki Ranger stuff and other small things like that. So I wouldn't say the continuity is better one over the other, though I do understand the Power Rangers thing. Again, it's just weird to say it has that solid continuity when the solidness to it is mostly just Mighty Morphin, if that makes any sense. And the only real big continuity thing I can think of is, again, during the crossovers. During the Ninja Steel crossover, they actually talked about multiple dimensions also. Or in Beast Morphers, when they have this mini crossover with RPM. I think stuff like that is really cool. But when it's Mighty Morphin, then I get a little bit oh, they're just kind of pandering to the Gen 1ers of Power Rangers, but I don't want to get into that. They do specifically bring up that they have particular seasons like Wild Force and the legendary Forever Red crossover episode, but again, those are crossovers, those are special occasions, and Super Sentai does that too. And I would say probably even better because those crossovers are entire movies, and they have them basically every single year for every single team. Most of the time. That's a whole other thing, and the comics are also a whole other thing that this article actually does get into, but I'll also get into that in a second. Reasoning 2, the Morphin Grid. I think this belongs under the solid continuity thing because they say that the Morphing Grid is what connects everything together. And I agree. I think it makes like sense in a way that like, yeah, there isn't an equivalent to the morphing grid in Super Sentai because they just have their own individual reasons to change. They don't really have an ongoing overarching reason everybody transforms or anything like that. It's just like season by season. While in Power Rangers, basically every single season, whether they outright say it or not, they bring up, oh, the morphing grid has like connects all these Rangers together, and that's why there's these brand new teams and stuff like that. So I get what they're getting at. I would just put it under continuity. In fact, I would say this is the biggest reason to go under continuity, in that they have this one thing that ties all the seasons together, and not just the Zordon era stuff, but all the seasons together. So otherwise, sure, I guess the morphing grid counts, but I also don't see why that would be a thing that pushes Power Rangers over Super Sentai. It's just a thing that Sentai doesn't have, and I guess that makes Power Rangers just a little bit better. Reasoning 3. New Wave Comics. If I was a prepared man, I would get my comics from under there, because I actually do like the Power Rangers comics. I do like them, I just don't go out of my way to read them. Like, I will read them, like, once in a while, I'm just not that into it, like, as much as other people. So the writer of the article says that while Super Sentai does have, like, its own side stuff, the comics are a big thing in terms of, like, the Power Rangers lore and ongoing stories if you want. So I can also see what they're getting at. But for me personally, I'm all about the live action shows. Like, I do like comics. I'm more of a manga guy, but I do love comics. It's just... it's just not my thing, is what I'm gonna get, like, for the bottom line. I'll make it quick. The comics aren't my thing. I wouldn't say there's, like, a point away from the article. It's just more of a, oh, I get it. I just... Sure. Reasoning 4. Mighty Mighty Zords. This header makes it seem like, oh, Super Sentai doesn't have Zords, which is why Power Rangers is better. But no, what they really mean is that Power Rangers designates these Zords as, like, their own classifications. So, there's, like, the regular Zords, and then the Mega Zords, and then the Ultra Zords. While Super Sentai, they don't really have those classifications. They just have Mechas, or the giant robos. The writer does make a very good point in saying that classifying these Megazords power scales the fights, and I think that's actually a really good way to put this. I do really like how the Zords are classified into, like, the Megazords and Ultra Zords and stuff like that. But again, me being the online nerd that I am, Sentai does that too. They just don't have classifications for them. The way Tokusatsu is written in general, and not just like Super Sentai, I also mean like Kamen Rider and Garo, and pretty much every Toku you can think of, they have this power scaling system, whether they outright say it or not. They have these villains that just keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And in Super Sentai, they show that the teams themselves get stronger by either having, like, power-ups or the Red Ranger, or, like, team power-ups. Very rarely. But they do have power-ups. So to showcase that they are getting bigger with their threats, their Zords, or their Mechas, also get bigger and stronger. They have auxiliary Zords. They have these actual, like, combination Zords. That's where all the footage comes from, of course. So Sentai does that too. They just don't have the naming schemes of Zords like how Power Rangers does. And again, I don't see how the classification / power scaling thing really is a reason why Power Rangers would be better than Super Sentai. It's just a thing that Sentai doesn't have by name. So... And reasoning 5. Good old diversity. I probably shouldn't have to say this out loud. I am a brown man that likes these children's shows. And as an adult, I do like that there is diversity in Power Rangers. In fact, I would say diversity is one of the strongest things. It's like one of the biggest lifebloods and DNA of Power Rangers. Because ever since season 1, the teams have always been diverse. And I think that's a good thing for a children's show. Anyone can be a hero. No matter your age, your gender, the color of your skin. Anyone can be a hero. And I think Power Rangers showcases that very well. We have an LGBTQ ranger, we have rangers of all backgrounds, we've had, like, kid rangers before. Power Rangers does a very good way of showing that, yeah, anyone can be a hero, and it's great. Meanwhile, on Super Sentai's side, Yeah, Super Sentai doesn't really have the diversity like Power Rangers. And there are reasons for it. I wouldn't say they're good reasons, but there are reasons why it's not as diverse as Power Rangers. So I will agree with this. Diversity in Power Rangers, yeah, it's great, fantastic. It is a good point from the writer for having this here. And yeah, I think that's about it for the article. But you gotta know, as I alluded to earlier, Twitter and Reddit had a field day with this. They're beating your ass in the quote retweets, and they are right to do so. That's what the tweet said. There's another one that says, anyway, watch Gokaiger, which that's not what this is about. And there's just a lot of mean comments. Like, why are you so mean? These guys they're just writing an article. I do get what the article is saying. It's just written really weirdly. Like, for one, the headline shouldn't have been top 5 reasons why Power Rangers is better than Super Sentai. That's just gonna create enemies like right off the bat. I do understand why it's written like this. It's to get the clicks. It's clickbait. You know, like, the Toga community is just gonna read the headline, probably gonna ignore the rest of it, and be like, oh wow, I hate this headline. Time to quote retweet it with like a meme and tell other people to watch like Super Sentai, which, hey, it's fine. You can tell people to watch Super Sentai. But we really gotta focus on like the story, the article itself. And the article itself, rightfully so, it can make people a little frustrated just from the headline alone. But I don't think it's the worst thing ever. There is one website that I just try to avoid every single time. It would make such easy content because every time they release a Power Rangers or Super Sentai related article, there's always some kind of storm on social media. And I know it could be easy content, but I don't want to give them the clicks because I know they're doing it on purpose, like every single time. And I know they're trying to get things wrong on purpose every single time. But I think this IGN article is trying its best, and I think it has its heart in the right place. It just needed a few tweaks, I think. It just needed a bit more Super Sentai love, I guess, to show that, yeah, Power Rangers is good. Super Sentai is good. And they're both good for a reason. Here are their differences and why those differences make them good. Not, Power Rangers is better than Super Sentai slightly because of this. Which just, it just makes things muddled. And it would also make people not want to click on the article. And yeah, take it from me, I'm a social media guy, so... Anyway, that's it. It's not a bad article, just weirdly worded, and I really hope people don't keep going down someone's throat whenever a weird article like this is written, because they're trying their best. They're trying their fourth best, okay? They're trying, is the way I can put it. I don't mind it. I just hope for something better next time. With all that being said, I hope you enjoy my new place, because I'm actually kind of liking this setup. And with all that being said, I'll see you next time.